You carry a fresh bag of flour home from the store, the paper still sealed tight at both ends, and you set it up in the cupboard feeling sure that what is inside is nothing but clean white flour. I want to tell you something that bag will never tell you on its own. It may already have life inside it. Not flour alone, but eggs, laid down in the grain by little beetles and weevils and a small gray moth, so tiny that you could pour that flour through your fingers in the good light by the window and never once see a thing wrong with it. They do not crawl in after you get home. A great many of them are milled right into the bag before it was ever folded shut, slipped past the eyes at the mill in with the wheat, and sealed up snug for the ride to your shelf. A few warm weeks in your cupboard is all it takes, and one morning you open that bag to bake and the whole of it is moving. In better than 200 years of keeping flour by the barrel, that has not happened in my house, and I am going to show you the plain reason why. Here is what it costs you when no one warns you of it, for you lose far more than the one bag. By the time you see them stirring in the flour, that little moth and those beetles have most likely walked out across your shelf and into the cornmeal, into the oats, into the box of crackers and the children's cereal and the bag of rice, and even down into the dog food on the floor, for they think nothing of crossing from one package to the next. So you stand there of a morning and carry the whole shelf out to the bin, good food and all, and you scrub the cupboard down, and then you drive back to the store and buy every bit of it over again. And unless you change the one thing that let them in, you will be standing right back there in a month doing the very same. It is money out the door and a sick feeling besides. Now here is what I will give you in trade for the next little while of your time. I will show you how a family keeps flour and meal and grain by the sackful right through the warm months and never opens a bin to find it crawling. It is no poison and no costly gadget. It is 3 plain things you mostly have already, and a leaf my mother swore by, and it costs you about the price of 1 sack of flour, the one time. My name is Amos Stoltzfus, and I have lived all of my 65 years on the same farm in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, where my people have kept their own flour and meal for as far back as any of us can name. We do not run to the store for a small sack every few days the way the English do. We buy our flour in the big bag and our grain by the hundredweight, because there is a houseful to feed and a good distance to town, and that means we have had to learn to keep it sweet and clean and free of any crawling thing for months on end, through the damp of summer and all. My wife Esther tends those bins the way her mother tended hers, and her mother before that. I have carried 50-pound sacks of flour down the cellar steps more times than I could ever count, and I have dipped out of the same bin in August that we filled in the spring and found it as clean as the day it went in. So when I tell you how to keep the bugs out of your flour, I am not reading it off the side of a box. It is the plain work of my family's kitchen, done 10,000 times over, and I have the full bins to show for it. Now stay with me, because there are 2 things in all of this that matter more than the rest put together, and most folks never get hold of either one. The first I have already set in front of you, and I want you to hold on to it. A fair share of these bugs are in the flour before it ever reaches your house. That changes everything about how you beat them, for it means a clean cupboard alone will never be enough. There is a thing you must do to the flour itself the very day you carry it home, and I will lay it out for you plain in a few minutes. The second is about that leaf. You will read all over that a bay leaf in the bin is the whole answer, some secret the old folks had, and I am going to tell you honestly what that leaf can do and what it cannot, because a body who leans the whole weight on it is going to open the bin one day and be sorry. Keep the 2 in your mind as we go, what you do to the flour the day it comes in, and the honest truth about that leaf. Both have been quietly true the whole time. Here is how the know-how slipped away, and there is no villain hiding in it, so do not let anyone sell you one. It went the way the clothesline went and the root cellar went. Folks stopped keeping much flour on hand at all. The store sat close by, the small bag was cheap, and a body could buy just enough for the week and run back for more, so there was no longer any call to keep a big bin clean clear through to autumn. And once you're only ever holding a few cups at a time, you never learn the keeping of it. You just buy and use and buy again and trust the bag. The cold box helped folks forget it too, for you could throw the flour in the freezer and shut the door and never have to understand the why of anything. There has never been $1 in teaching a man to keep what he already owns, for no company sells an advertisement for a clean tin and a cold night and a leaf off the bush. So the plain old way of holding flour safe got set down and near forgotten inside of a generation, until most folks came to believe that bugs in the flour are just bad luck that falls on you from out of nowhere. It is not luck, and it never was. So let me start with where they truly come from, because once you have that straight, the whole rest of it falls into place. These little pests do not mostly fly in your window and find your flour. They begin in the grain long before it is ever flour at all, out in the field and in the great bins where the wheat is held, where the weevils and the beetles and that small moth lay their eggs right down in the kernels. The egg is so small that no sifting and no milling catches everyone, and so a share of them go straight on through and end up in the sack you carry home, sealed up inside with everything looking white and fine. You cannot see them and you cannot sift them out, for they are finer than the flour itself. They lie there still and waiting. Then your warm cupboard does for them just what the spring sun does for a seed. It wakes them. The eggs hatch, the young feed on the very flour they are buried in, they grow and they breed, and a few unseen specks become a bin alive with them inside of a few weeks. That is the whole secret of it. The trouble is most often baked into the bag, not crawling in from your kitchen, and that is exactly why the answer has to start with the flour itself. Now you might think the cure is just to leave everything sealed in its store package, and here is where folks get fooled. That paper sack and that cardboard box and even that bag of thin plastic are no wall at all to these creatures. The little ones crawl straight in through a fold or a seam you would never notice, and the stronger beetles will chew a hole clean through paper and cardboard and soft plastic to get at what they want, or to get out and go looking for more. So one bad bag does not stay one bad bag. They walk out of it and into everything near it that is not shut up truly tight, package to package and shelf to shelf. It is worth knowing the few you are up against by name, so you know your enemy when you meet him. There is the little rice weevil and the granary weevil, hard-shelled and dark. There is the red flour beetle and its cousin the confused flour beetle, and the saw-toothed grain beetle, every one of them small enough to pass for a fleck of pepper. And there is the Indian meal moth, the one that leaves fine webbing and little threads across the top of the flour and flutters up at you brown and gray when you lift the lid. They are not the same bug, but they are all beaten the very same way. So here is the first thing to do, and it is the one most folks have never once heard, though it is the very heart of the matter. The day you bring that flour or meal or grain into the house, before it ever goes in the cupboard, you kill whatever may have ridden in with it. The plainest way is the cold. Set the bag in your freezer, down at 0 degrees or near it, and leave it there a good while, not an hour, and not a single night, for the eggs are far tougher than the grown bugs, and the cold takes its time reaching all the way to the middle of a packed bag. Give it 3 days at the least, and a full week is better and surer. That hard cold finishes the grown ones and the young and the eggs alike, every stage there is, and your flour comes out as good as it went in, only clean now. One thing to mind, when you take it out, let the bag come back to room warmth before you open it, still shut up, or the damp will gather on the cold flour and wet it. If you have no room in the freezer, heat will do the same work the other way. Spread the flour thin in a pan in the oven at 130 to 140 degrees for about a quarter of an hour, just warm enough to finish them, and not so hot as to scorch the flour. Cold or heat, the point is the same. Settle it the day it comes in, and you have stopped the whole trouble at its root. Once the flour is settled, you give it a proper home, and this is the second plain thing. Get it out of that paper sack and into a real container that shuts tight, glass or metal or hard plastic, with a lid that seals down against a rubber ring, the kind a canning jar has, or a good close tin. This does two things for you at once. It keeps any bug already loose in your cupboard from getting into the clean flour, for a lid that truly seals gives them no fold and no gap to crawl under, and these are not strong creatures once they are shut out. And it keeps one bin from feeding the next, so that even if some trouble does start, it stays trapped in the one jar where you can find it and end it, instead of marching down the whole shelf on you. A loose lid is near as bad as no lid at all, mind you, for they will walk right under a lid that only rests on top. It is the tight seal that matters, and nothing less. We have kept flour in heavy tins and crocks with close lids for generations for this very reason, long before there was ever a glass jar to be had, and Esther lines them up in the cellar where it is cool and dark, which the flour likes near as much as we do. Now the leaf, for I promised you the honest truth of it. My mother always tucked a bay leaf or two down into the flour bin, and another up under the lid, the same as her mother did, and a great many of our families do it yet. The plain laurel bay leaf you cook with, that is the one. And I will tell you what is real about it. That leaf carries an oil with some bite to it, and the little weevils and flower beetles do not care for the smell of it, and tucked in fresh, it will help hold them off and turn some of them away. So it is worth doing, and it costs you next to nothing. But here is where I must be straight with you in a way the internet almost never is, for I would not have you trust the wrong thing. A bay leaf is not a wall, and it is not a cure. Its strength fades as it dries out, so it wants changing every month or two to be worth anything at all. And if your flour is already alive with them, no leaf on this earth will clean it for you. That flour is for the bin out back, not for the saving. The leaf is a helper laid on top of the real work, never the work itself. Keep your flour cold-killed coming in and shut up tight, and then let the leaf do its small, honest part. Lean the whole house on the leaf alone, and it will let you down. For the folks who would like the whole of it set down on paper, how long each kind of grain and meal and bean wants in the cold, how to keep flour good right through a wet summer, which containers hold up best, and how to lay out a pantry so the bugs never get a foothold. I have gathered all of it into our Natural Home Guide, and the link to it sits right below this video. It is there if you care to have the long version in your own two hands, and that is the only time I will speak of it. A written guide is a fine thing of an evening, but you do not need it to start, for everything that truly matters I am giving you right here, for nothing. Now back to the work, for there is a little more to it that makes the whole difference, and it is the part that keeps the trouble from ever coming back around on you a second time. Here is the part that keeps you from fighting this same battle twice over. When you do clear a cupboard, whether the bugs drove you to it or you're only setting things right, do not just carry off the bad bag and call it done. Take everything out, down to the bare shelf, and wipe it well, and run a stiff brush or the sweeper into every corner and crack and screw hole, for the flour dust gathers there, and a few eggs can sit waiting in a crack to start the whole thing over on you. A damp cloth lifts what a dry one leaves behind. For that little Indian meal moth in particular, there is a simple sticky trap baited with its own scent that you can hang in the pantry. It draws in the males and holds them fast, and it tells you at a glance whether you have them and whether you are winning, and by a touch wiser going forward. Take the flour and meal you will truly use up in a couple of months rather than a great stock you cannot keep ahead of, and use the oldest bin first so nothing sits long enough to get going. Date the jar with a bit of tape and a pencil if your memory is anything like mine. None of it is hard. It is just paying a little attention where folks have got used to paying none. Step back from the whole of it and see what this really comes to, for it is more than a few bugs. It is money, first of all, for a family that loses a full pantry 2 or 3 times in a year and buys it all back has thrown away real grocery money, the kind that gathers up into a good sum over the span of years, and all of it saved by a cold night and a tight lid. It is the peace of reaching into a bin in the dead of August and knowing, without even looking close, that what you dip out is clean, because you settled it months ago and shut it up sound. It is keeping poison out of the bargain, for there is no need to set any chemical near the very flour your family eats from, when the cold and a good jar do the whole job with nothing in them to harm a soul. And there is the plain quiet of a full, clean pantry you can trust, shelves you laid up yourself against the months ahead, which is a kind of wealth the English have near forgotten the feel of. We never kept our flour this way to be clever. We kept it so because a house full of children had to be fed clean food clear through the year, and the way works. It has always worked. So here is what I would have you do this very week, and I have kept it short enough to start on your next bag. The day you carry flour or meal or grain home, put it straight in the freezer at 0 degrees for 3 days to a week before it ever sees the cupboard, or warm it thin in the oven a quarter hour if you have no room, for that one step kills whatever rode in. Then pour it over into a jar or a tin that seals down tight against a rubber ring, and leave the paper sack behind. Tuck a fresh bay leaf down in and another under the lid, and change them out every month or so. While you are at it, pull your shelf clear and wipe and sweep every corner and crack, for that is where the next start hides. Hang one of those little scented traps if the moths have been at you. And going on, buy only what you will use up in a couple of months, and dip the oldest jar first. Do that much, and you will not be carrying your pantry out to the bin come summer. You will open every bin clean. Now, I would dearly like to hear back from you. Tell me down in the comments where it is you live, and whether the bugs come at your flour bed where you are, for I am told the warm, damp parts of the country fight them far harder than we do up here in the north. And I would like to know the truth of it from you who live there. And tell me this besides: the worst you ever found when you opened a bin or a bag, and what it cost you to set right, for I think a few of those will raise the hair on the back of a neck. And tell me whether your own mother or grandmother kept her flour in a tin or a crock, and what she tucked in with it, a bay leaf, or something else handed down that I have never once heard of. For a great deal of this came down from her hands to yours, and it is well worth the saving. I read these, every last one of them, and I will tell you plainly which of the keeping ways holds up the best and which one folks lean on too hard, for one or two of them will surprise you. And before you go, here is what is coming the next time. Flour is only the one corner of the pantry. The harder question is how a family lays up a whole year of food, the beans and the grain and the dried things, and keeps every bit of it good for the long haul with no freezer humming away to lean on, the way our cellars have done it for generations. There is a plain art to it, shelf by shelf, and the next time I will walk you through the whole of it. Until then, do the one small thing for me. The next bag of flour you carry through the door, do not set it in the cupboard trusting the paper. Put it in the cold first, then shut it up tight, and tuck a leaf in for good measure. Do that much, and the bugs are beaten before they ever begin. Our people have kept their bread flour clean this plain way for longer than any of us has been alive, asking nothing of it but a cold night, a tight lid, and a little attention, and it has never once let us down.